90 minutes, 27 seconds, 85 saves. Honestly, I could just say just that and shut this video off, but something like that has to be talked about. Again, 90 minutes, 27 seconds, 85 saves. I and other puckheads watched history on day one of the official Stanley Cup Playoffs. And I thought to myself, as someone who's seen a lot of crazy things in sports, I thought, with the year being the way it is, I think the almighty sports gods decided, you know what? We're not even going to give them. We're not even going to go to playoff overtime on the first day of the Sweet 16. They're not going to score for hours. We're going to give them a marathon of close calls and power plays and spectacular saves, just so sports fans could be happy and enjoy what's in front of them and just take a break from what has been, some would say, a bleak year. But we thank the sports gods for that. Because what we saw was epic and just amazing. And it's why playoff hockey is the best ever. There's nothing like it. This is why I love playoff hockey, the marathon overtimes. I still remember that thriller between the Flyers and Penguins 20 years ago. That was a crazy game and ended at around like 11 o'clock to 11:30 here in this time zone, which meant it was about after 2 a.m. back east that night. But yeah, so it was just insane, and it put this what's now like a playoff rivalry on the map between Columbus and Tampa Bay. And like I said, 85 saves. Jonas Korpisalo made history. That's the new record. A record that stood for over 30 years, and Korpisalo broke it. And I heard Kelly Hrudey, who had the record, he said he was disappointed that both goalies didn't surpass it because Vasilevsky, who won, only had 60 plus. He was about a few short. But yeah, that game was just all sorts of amazing. 5 overtimes. First 5 overtime games since 2003. And the third one overall in this millennium, the last 2 decades. I mean, and again, it's only day one. It's only day one. It's only game one. There's a lot more insanity to come within the next few weeks because it's going to be jammed up. Now, I know I could pretty much talk about that game over and over, but it was Braden Point who finally hit the shot, put it in, and ended this fabulous marathon. Pretty much a 6-hour game. The game started at noon Pacific time and ended about after 6. So yeah, Braden Point ended. He had 2 goals. That's what's kind of lost in this. He had 2 goals in this game. One of them being the OT winner. But yeah. So, and like I said, I could talk pretty much about that game this whole video, but there were 2 other games, not 3, because Boston and Carolina were supposed to kick off their series, but Tampa and Columbus wouldn't end on time. They decided to spend the next few hours just playing it out. So things had to be put, and it looked like it was just going to be pushed back a bit. But I think by the time the 4th overtime ended, By the time the fourth overtime ended, it was officially announced that Game 1 between Carolina and Boston would be pushed back to tomorrow morning. And yes, morning. That's tomorrow morning in the East Coast. So 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. here. So you wake up in the morning, there's hockey. But on to the other two games that took place. Calgary and Dallas. It's starting. I said Dallas does have a chance this series, and they're 3 losses away from getting the boot. Dallas did have an impressive show. Both their 2 goals came in a 9-second span. That's pretty quick, but Calgary was too much for them. 3-2. That was the final score. And Dallas is still kind of sputtering ever since that first round robin game against Vegas. They've only scored not, of course, technically they've only scored 3 goals in the 3 games they've played since uh, the first round robin game. They scored 3 goals in 1 period in that game. And they've scored 3 goals total. Technically, you get a bonus goal when you win the shootout, but technically they've scored 3 goals in the 3 games of their past. Shut out by Colorado. Scored 1 on Jake Allen. That's a problem in itself. Only 1 on Jake Allen, and 2 tonight. So that's 3 goals, 1 goal a game. That's not going to do it. You need to put the puck in the net. And Dallas is having some trouble in that regard, and now they're 1 in the hole in this Western Conference quarterfinal. Another Western Conference quarterfinal started tonight. Chicago and Vegas, and I don't know. I don't know if it's because I don't know. Well, I don't know what it is, but Chicago didn't have that spark they had in the qualifying round series against Edmonton. Maybe it's because Edmonton's capable of screwing things up and Vegas really isn't. But yeah, Chicago was pretty much solved in Game 1. I still have this going 7, but if they keep playing like this in Game 2, it might be shorter than I thought. So yeah, Vegas took care of business in Game 1. And that's all of the game. That's all the action for day 1, though. They got the as I'm recording this, they have I'm watching the NHL live. It's the post game, and I think on the Tron during the marathon game, it said we apologize. We had other plans tonight, and during the fourth overtime, which is the 7th period, there's a sign that said it's time for the 7th period stretch. Oh my god! And I have to read this because during this marathon game, the Hurricanes actually tweeted the fall. We don't have any words, and we know you don't want to hear them. We understand your anger, your frustration, your sadness, everything you're feeling. We get it. This isn't the start time we imagined. It's certainly not the one we wanted. Thank you for being there the entire way. Not only does it make light of the fact that their game's been pushed back, if you have a good if for any hockey fans that have a good memory, those words are a spoof of the exact tweet posted by the Tampa Bay Lightning after Columbus embarrassed them. So they were troll. So they were trolling. They were trolling the Lightning. That's the second team they've trolled in less than 24 hours, because they kind of trolled the New York Rangers because remember yesterday was the draft lottery, and the Rangers won the draft lottery, and Carolina said you're welcome, New York Rangers, because the Rangers lost the qualifying round series to them. Matter of fact, they got swept. They didn't win a game. But so yeah, the New York Rangers got number 1. So anyway, so that's my recap of a very epic opening day of this official Stanley Cup playoffs. And yes, everything else that happened before that, the round robin, the qualifying round, counts as the playoffs. I consider it the playoffs, but this is the official Stanley Cup playoffs. 16 teams, 1 cup, all that great jazz right there. Now, here is the modified schedule. Here's the modified schedule. Because of the marathon game, Game 1 between Carolina and Boston, which is a rematch of last year's East Final, will be the first game tomorrow, and it will start early. After that, the originally planned first game, the Islanders of Washington, will take place at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. And I'm wondering how they're gonna I wonder how that's going to be done if Carolina Boston goes overtime, because those games are too close together and they're both Eastern games, which means they're both the same city. Um, After that, though, the West gets started. Game one, Avalanche and Coyotes. And as you can see, I will be dressed for the occasion. There it is. I will be dressed for the occasion. It came in the mail during the qualifying round, so I'll have this on during game one. And later on, Montreal Philly game one, and then day two tomorrow will end with game one between the defending champion Blues and the Vancouver Canucks. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how these East games are going to be played out in the schedule. Like I said, um, the Carolina Boston game and the Islanders Washington game, they're too close together. And if the Boston game goes 3 periods, if the Boston game goes 3 periods, that means it'll end right before 2 o'clock Eastern. End before 2 o'clock Eastern, which is a little less than an hour before the other game starts. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting, especially if that game goes overtime. My goodness, chaos, chaos. So that's my recap of day one of this crazy playoffs. The first, like I said, 5 overtimes, and it's only the beginning. There's a lot more insanity to come. So I'll be back tomorrow with my review of day two. So until then, fellow hockey fans.